everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I've got a brand new Living the Line book, Centralia by Miel Vandepitte. This is, the newest offering that Sean has out from Living the Line Books, and if you have not got a copy already through the Kickstarter or pre-ordered it at your shop or on Amazon, all the places, Barnes & Noble, all the places you can get books, this should be available to you. You definitely need to get a copy. If you have got your copy, wait until you've read it and come back to this book. I'll try and give a pretty spoiler-free review because I'm trying to sell this book. It's a new book and it's beautiful and you should own it. But I do want to give a pretty good sense of the story and the amazing art in here by Miel. So, according to Sean, Miel made this when he was like 19, 20 years old. This was his project that he was making right when he came out of school. So this is a very young artist, very talented, and someone who's going to continue making comics very successfully, I'm sure, and will have a great impact on the future of the medium. So really excited to have Miel as part of the Living the Line family. Cool to be on the roster with you, Miel. This book, Centralia, is based on a real-life story, and it says that in here at some point. It says very, very loosely based. It's based on a town in Pennsylvania where there was an explosion in the mine, and the mine's been on fire, and so the ground's too hot to live there anymore. And Miel took that idea and expanded upon it in this sci-fi world. So it's like, what happens, if there is a city you can't go into, how could this play out? There's some other political things that are explained in the front where it seems like maybe Miel has an even larger world in his mind, a larger story to tell. I'm not sure, but it seems like there's other things. I think like this feels like the beginning of something similar to the Obscure Cities to me. It has that interest in area and city in mind, and it does feel like it's part of a much larger world. So I feel like Centralia is just the first city that I'm visiting in this world. I don't know. Miel didn't, when we interviewed him about it, didn't mention anything like that, but this does feel like that. So here we have the Nacillus, semi-Nacillus, who are these characters here with these strange things on their face, and they're riding towards Centralia. And you see this kind of beautiful Moebius-esque artwork, these beautiful backgrounds that Miel does. And basically the ground is so hot here that as they're riding, they get sucked into the concrete. And here you see this is based on a true story, like really, really loosely. But these characters, they melt down into the earth, and so they can't walk there. So you get other characters who have basically, and this is where this book is so fun, is it takes that very simple conceit and then plays it out. These other characters here are heading into Centralia. This character here, Lanka, is just trying to get gold, and this character here, Ace, is a reporter who's coming in to try and find out what happened in Centralia, and then they basically have their two helpers here that are coming along, I believe, with Lanka, but they might be Ace's people that she brought along. But there are two helpers that are coming along. There's just some really, really cool uses of color throughout here also as we transition through this mechanism of them walking into town on the wires. They realize they need to be on the wires. So we've been out in the desert. We're out in this very, very like pink colors, these kind of salmon-y colors here. And then you see the slow introduction of like some greens. You get a trick that Miel does many, many times throughout the book, and I'll show some more instances because I think this shows, the level of creator you're dealing with. For someone to be doing this kind of stuff so young is really impressive. So there's some really cool like perspective play on these pages where you have what appears to be Lanka falling, and that's a smooth, but you read it across like this, even though it looks down like this. And then you're looking up at Lanka falling, you're looking down at the character saving him, and then you're looking flat on him as he's being saved, but everything lines up. So there's tangents created throughout the panels that even though I'm looking down here, everything lines up with the things that are meant to be read as seen from the side here. And so it creates a real sense of unity across the page, in the sense that there's motion and animation happening, like an image of Spider-Man jumping around, but it's broken up into panels, and those panels show you different perspectives. So you're able to get both a sense of a stable sense of place and move the camera around in it. And that's really, really compelling to me. Even this here, where it could be that this is just the pole and it keeps going up, but it could also be that the pole's bent, or that it's going up and that you're seeing this from a worm's eye view. So very complex page layouts that really, because this is about place, it's about a place, a town that's hot. The town really gets foregrounded as the characters move around, and I think that's a really smart strategy that Miel uses. But anyways, you see as you go in, you start switching towards the cooler palette, you start switching more towards the greens, and the kind of balance of those colors as he goes through just shifts so slowly and so subtly. It's such a musical thing. And then by the time you come into the town, you're almost entirely in these like weird kind of foggy blue greens, and you even get like this kind of thing here where the artwork has been made blue to make it look even more foggy. So you get that kind of sophisticated use of color and perspective throughout the book. You also learn this character here's name is Jack Stonehand. He's a mute, and Chardin, this is their other buddy. Jack lost his vocal cords in a war. There's a lot of mutants in this town. So you have like this guy with a nose, a tap for a nose and a head. You have this little snail character that's always got like his testicles hanging out, which is hilarious. I think, like if I wish Miel would have been at MoCA. He would have been if the book had come out. There was a delay with the printing. But this is the one thing, like if I could sit him down and talk to him, I'd be like, dude, can we just edit out the balls? Like this could be a wonderful YA book if we could get rid of the balls everywhere. So I think maybe for Miel's next book, I don't know. We'll see. I think this book's going to do pretty well anyways. But I feel like Miel could do a really good kids book. He just has to get rid of the testicles. Anyways, here's another one of these awesome bits of perspective play where these are all entirely different scenes around the city, but you can tell at a glance that they're all basically like synced up on the same grid. And so like here where we're zoomed in on this aspect of the building here, it seems to make perfect sense because it's tangentially lined up like to the window and to the roof here. And then as we come down and turn the corner, so instead of having characters crawl across a stable background, which is a very familiar kind of comics formalist trick, now you have that same impression but now with multiple camera angles. And I don't know I've ever seen anyone else but Miel do that. And I'll point it out a couple other times in the book as well. I'm not going to show all of them, but I'll show a few more of them. So here we get the characters wandering through the city, and you get the same thing. And the reason I wanted to show this one is because this actually does have not a stable background, but it has a stable subject matter with a camera shift, but there's still tangents that line up. Like here, even though this is the same building smaller here, it lines up to itself. It's like this is where the camera's at, and then everything else is determined from there. And then here you get that same trick where we aren't looking straight on at this. We've now shifted the camera again, but again it feels lined up. So very, very clever stuff. You see it again here as well. These directional forces, these tangents that kind of line up and create this like S like Z like motion through the page. It's just wonderful, wonderful design that really, really gives you a sense of place. You find out that the Nausilis are here. They've had a fort in the city. So again, there's some other political things going on that aren't so central to this story. That's why I feel like there's an expansion to this probably. And then they're basically on the lookout because they know these characters are coming in looking for the gold and trying to get more information about what happened here. You meet some of the plant mutants. They're super cute little plant mutants, and there's some really funny disgusting imagery with that wouldn't be appropriate for kids in here as well, but it's quite enjoyable. Actually, what happened when Sean reached out to get Eric Creeks the Exile, Scratchbook sent him their whole catalog, and so Sean had forwarded it to me and said, what books do you think are cool? He had been particularly interested in Centralia, and I looked at it and I said, oh man, the art looks amazing. And really what sold me on it were these plant creatures. There's a plant creature in here. I don't know if I have it tagged. I think I do. Yeah, this plant creature here. When I got to this part and read this, I said, this book's crazy. You got to do this. So if that story is good at all, you got to do it, because I was just looking at the art. I said, whatever that plant creature thing is so wild. You got to do it. Yeah, then Sean read it, said, oh, it's a good story too. Found more about Miel and everything. But this is the character I remember most from first reading it. So you have this plant thing, this Hortus virum, which can basically impregnate itself. So it's pulling out seeds from the front and then, or pulling out seeds from the back and then stuffing them into the pistil on my underbelly. And then I disperse my progeny with the wind. And then this character here says, stop, he has hay fever. And this thing's basically like jerking off in his face. And that just had to crack me up because, like, I have pretty bad seasonal allergies. And I've always felt like, you know, the trees they're engaging insects in the air, basically, and the pollen is like their semen. And so it's like, man, I really wish these trees would quit coming in my face, because I'm tired of sneezing. And so to have that put into a character is pretty funny. Again, it takes what would otherwise be a pretty youth-friendly book and make it, you know, you got to target this now towards probably like 16 and older or something, 17 and older, something like that. But I found it very entertaining. I quite like it. I would not take that out. I think that's an amazing character. You also get some other really funny mutants here. One is this guy who has a hole in his belly, and it constantly just always has his intestines in his mouth for no reason. We have the tap head guy, and then you have this periscope head guy, which is named Periscopoles. And I know Sean did the translation on this based on a rough English translation. And I know he's communicating with Miel and had the fun job of kind of preserving some of these names. So I know that Sean is responsible for that Periscopoles name, at least the English version. I don't know what it was in the original language. Then there's a very epic finale. I'm jumping over, I don't want to give it away, but there's this huge epic finale, which is some amazing scenery of this big fight chase scene kind of going in a couple different directions throughout the city. And here you get a sense of like how Miel's art's developed since the opening of the book. I think he gets stronger and stronger with his character work as he goes. His work on the buildings, is obviously, as you can see throughout, pretty phenomenal stuff. The coloring throughout, like I mentioned, is great. And you continue to have these awesome kind of tonal color shifts throughout as you happen through this big escape. And then you get a nice culmination to the story. I'm not going to give it away. No spoilers here. Definitely get the book and read it for yourself. And then you get a fun little piece here at the end where you get epilogues for pretty much all of the main characters. Then Miel gives a little shout out to the actual original town, Centralia, that this was based on, and then has a drawing of himself here as well. So this is a really, really fun book. It's a great adventure book. It's, there's nothing to, I'm giving away some of the cool stuff there. It's not the most serious book. It's definitely, a book where you get a self-impregnating plant guy. You get, snails with scrotums. So it's that kind of just really fun. This is someone who's just absolutely letting their imagination play, and they have a hell of an imagination. So this is just the type of comics that you just read for the pure joy of it, It's just really a ton of fun all throughout. And I think underneath it, there's probably a pretty good metaphor as well about seeking out gold and wealth and the way that those are destructive. So on the surface level, it's just a pretty fun, goofy adventure. But I do think that there's some fairly serious issues that Miel is approaching beneath the surface of the book as well. So beautiful book. Of course, Sean was on the production on this. It's a Living Line production, so great printing throughout. Nice hardcover book. Like I said, this should be available pretty much anywhere that you can get books and comic books at. So definitely go out and get yourself a copy of Centralia. Buying the books that Sean puts out through Living the Line is the best way to support what we're doing here on the channel. So this would be a great one to go get. If you want to throw us some extra support, we do have a Patreon. There's 2 tiers of interaction on there. On the first tier, you just get early access to the videos. At the second tier, you get exclusive previews of some of the books that Sean and I are working on, our private art stuff, as well as the ability to vote on what happens in our ongoing webcomic experiment, Prane Day. So please check that out. Any of the funds that we get from the Patreon just go back into buying the books that we review. Unless it's like this one, then it comes from Sean. He just sends it to me because he made it. But normally we're buying other people's books. We're trying to put that money back in the community and keep you all in a steady stream of reviews of things to consider. But most highly, please consider Centralia, because that really supports the Living the Line itself, is the publishing company, and the YouTube channel is just to help on that mission. So please throw Sean some help and grab yourself a copy of Miel Vandepitte's Centralia. You will be helping an awesome publisher and an awesome artist out.
Whole new world. 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 For you and
Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.